What's going on, everybody? It's been a while since I made a video. Since I moved to North Carolina, there's been a lot of groups that I haven't had a chance to see on a regular basis like I used to. And some things have come up with testing, and I wanted to talk about testing today. A lot of people over the years, and I've been training a long time now, testing, I've seen a couple of different things. People say, yeah, Sensei, I don't really care about the testing. I want the knowledge. And then I've had other students say, you know what, the tests are super important, and they're on this race to collect material and collect belts, and they're on a race to get the green belt, a race to get the black belt. They're just collecting material, and their only purpose is those belts. Those belts mean accomplishment to them. So, you know, I've got people on both sides of the spectrum. People that don't want to test, they just want to train. I got people that just want to test, and they don't really care about training or learning. It's a matter of just how fast can they get to a certain rank or a certain level. And both of those sides are completely wrong. Testing is critical. Testing in martial arts is a very important process. To those guys out there to say, oh, Sensei, I just want the skills, I just want the knowledge, I don't care about the belts. Well, in my opinion, testing is a way for you to be able to prove that you know the material. If you don't test in front of somebody that knows that material, how can you really understand if you know it at a complete level or not? A lot of people will see something, be able to do something, maybe can even make it work in a real life situation, and they think they have it. But yet when they try to reproduce that movement or try to teach others, they struggle. So within all the schools that I'm connected to, we've got a baseline. We've got a standardized way. We've got a level that when a student hits that certain level, they're ready to test. And each test has a standard. Each test has a level that on average, the student's skills need to be at that level. It's kind of telling us that they're ready. So not only do they have to do the material, they've got to meet this par or the standard that's been placed by all the people that's trained before them. So if someone says, Sensei, I just want the knowledge, I really don't want to test, they're kind of taking the easy way out, because I've taken dozens and dozens and dozens of martial arts tests over the last 40 years. And each one of those tests, I had to have a certain preparation. I had to be able to study that material, not only be able to read it and learn it and memorize it, but I've also had to be able to do it at a very high level. And then I had to be able to train a training partner. So when I took the test, we were on the same sheet of music, and that test flowed and had a certain aesthetic look to it. I also had to be able to train the uke to be able to do the techniques in the kata without being able to get hurt, but yet being able to go at a pace that showed my level of skill. So I wasn't just muscling things, or I wasn't just babying through things. I was physically performing them at a high level, and I was doing it safely. So testing is very important to not only be able to show your skills to the instructor, but for the instructor to be able to see what level you're at, all right? And for those who just want to race through and collect material, there's going to be a spot to where if you're not training and you're not pressure testing this material and you're not working in a way where this material will actually work in a real life situation, the instructors are going to see that. The instructors are going to see that, number one, you have something called uke magic. Your training partner is just falling down, doing whatever you do, and you're not really even performing the technique, and it's more like a dance. And in that scenario, you're going to fail. The techniques have to be able to work against multiple different types of opponents, different skill levels, strength sizes, and environments. And during that test, your instructor, his number one responsibility when he watches anyone test is, can that student perform that in real life? Will it at least save his life? Man, this is a tough topic. You know, every school tests a different way. But I think overall, in every martial arts system, testing is very important. It can be very important financially to the school, but it's also very important for the student and teacher relationship. Over the years, I have had the privilege of promoting many people to black belts and running their own schools, and I've seen them go from right off the streets, very little knowledge about martial arts, very little knowledge about themselves, very little knowledge about life, and they knew very little bit about martial arts. And over this journey, I had a chance to see them grow. I had a chance to see them develop. I had to see them go from something that they were intimidated by to something that they embraced, to something that they fell in love with, and it changed their lives. If any martial art instructor has been out there doing this for a while, they know that martial arts absolutely changes lives. It develops people and it changes lives. So how do you monitor it? How do you keep a student on track? How do you keep a student focused? How do you keep a junior level or a senior level instructor focused? Well, I developed a checklist, and I'm sure many martial arts systems have some type of a way to monitor what the students have learned, and students have a way to monitor. And during this video, I'm going to show a little bit about the way that we do testing and the way that we do our checklist. And I want to be able to explain the importance of these checklists, not only to the student, but also to the instructor, and then any kind of a dojo cho who monitors other instructors underneath them. I want to be able to see the student perform an individual movement at a certain standard depending on that test. And if that student is not performing to the standard level, I want to be able to have that conversation with the instructor. And I want to be able to have that conversation with the instructor's teacher. Because many times during a test, you may have a senior level instructor grading lower level belts, and that senior level instructor doesn't really work with those lower level belts on a day-to-day basis. So you've got another instructor that's teaching those classes. So testing is a way for head instructors or senior instructors to see what is being taught and then to see how that information is being reproduced on the mat. If anybody's taken martial arts and you've tested in martial arts, you know that in testing, a lot of times, it doesn't come out the way you practice. Maybe you got a little bit of nerves, you got a lot of people watching you. There's a testing environment that it may be being filmed. There's a lot of things that can kind of throw you off your game. Also, a lot of people test and they're really not ready. They haven't done the work that they need to do to be able to test. So I'm going to show you some checklists and some of the checklists and how it works. And each individual belt level has things that the student needs to learn. And then what I do for my instructors is I give every single test an opportunity for that instructor to implement things that he wants to see at every single level. So even though you're part of the United States Ninpo Academy or you're part of a larger whole, I give each of my instructors the ability to customize their own curriculums to put their own training, their own history, their own knowledge, things that they want to see for their own students, so they can take this standardized form that we're all using for quality control, but they can customize it for either themselves as an instructor, or they can customize it for the individual student. Many students come to martial arts for different reasons. We have a set program, which is called the Essentials, everything that the student needs to learn to be able to, number one, have a great level of understanding of self-defense, but also preparing them to be able to train further in the system and in the scrolls and in the weapons. So there's a duality there. All of our tests have material that is going to teach them self-defense, survival, tactics, and they're also going to teach them foundation and form so they can build a foundation to be able to train in the scrolls when they get to the black belt level. So when you see this here, you see this is the material that the student has to learn, and it's written out. It's in their notebook. Then what they have is their checklist. The checklist is going to be kind of a mokoroku, or a list, a category list of the techniques in that test. And when they show up to class, the first thing they do, you do all your warm-ups, your drills, all this stuff the teacher can teach, whatever. But there's going to be a certain time in every class where the student can work on their own personal material every single day. So every single day when a student comes to the dojo, he has an opportunity to learn something at his level. And you're going to use your notebook and you're going to use your checklist. So if I was to walk into any school and every school used some type of a checklist, and I knew the same material that the school was working with, we had these foundation, these essentials, I could pick any random student, have them bring their notebook over. I can look directly at their checklist and I can see exactly when they were taught it. I can see who taught it to them. I can see the student level here for the student to put his initials. If the student hasn't put his initials on that technique, that means the student doesn't believe that he's really ready or he hasn't put in the work. And then once the instructor has signed off on it, the student has signed off on it, he's eligible to do what we call a pretest. Okay, let's take a look. I taught it to you a month ago. You've been working with it. You've got hundreds, if not thousands of repetitions. You feel comfortable. You've put your initials to it. Let's take a look at where you're at. And then the student is going to stand in front of the instructor and he's going to perform that technique like it was a real test. And that instructor is going to give him a pretest score. And then that score is going to have to be above a certain passing level. And each school can have their own variations. What we use in here and what I use is a scale of kind of a 1 through a 100. And no student gets 100%. That means you did it absolutely perfectly. So we just kind of set that standard that no one's perfect. You need to keep working hard. So 99 would be something if they did it really, really well. 99 would be the highest score they can get. And then they need to have an average of 95 or better to pass the test. And we'll go over scoring later. But let's say during that pretest, they had a score of a 93. That means there's still some work that needs to be done. Let's say during that pretest, they had a score of a 98. That means they're very good. And in some cases, if the pretest was so strong, it could actually count as a testing score to save time. And we'll talk about that a little later as well. So these checklists are very important because if I see that the student had learned this, say, in January, and then there was another part of the checklist that was in like March, and then there was another part of the checklist that was like in June. That's 6 months that's gone by. And this student has not tested and his checklist is not complete. So that tells me a few things. Number one, I've got to check with the instructor in the school and I got to check the attendance. I got to see, hey, has this dude been coming to class? It's been 6 months and he hasn't passed a single test and his checklist is not even complete, showing me he has not even learned everything in his test in a half a year. That's a red flag. That's something that I want to be able to protect the student to make sure he's just not coming and paying. He's not really learning. He's not progressing forward because there's a system in place to get him through these tests. I got to see if the student's been coming. If his attendance has been weak, this gives me an opportunity to maybe pull the student aside and say, hey, man, you've been coming for 6 months. You don't even have 50% of your next test checked off. What's been going on, man? Everything good at home? Your health been good? Have any injuries you're dealing with? What's been happening? And a lot of times students will appreciate this one-on-one time, but most of the time the student's going to make you a bunch of bullshit excuses. They're just going to give you excuse after excuse after excuse. And then again, it's the instructor's responsibility to say, hey, man, we've got a standard here that every 90 days you need to be testing and moving forward, especially in these lower Qs. You need to be training. So you need to be coming to the dojo a couple days a week. You need to be putting a couple hours a week on your own. The combination of coming to the dojo a couple hours, train on your own a couple hours, every 90 days, every 3 months, you should have this material down to at least pre-test on everything or see everything. And make the student understand that when he leaves at the end of the day, before he goes home, he needs to take a look at his checklist and see if there's something that he's been working on that he can maybe get checked off or a pre-test on. It's also the instructor's responsibility to be looking at these checklists every single class, to also see these dates and say, hey, it's been months since something's been checked off. Have you been coming to class? What's been going on? You're working with an injury. Is there anything I can do to help you? Can we schedule some private classes? What can we do to help continue for your training and move forward? So these checklists give you a snapshot of the last few months of what this student's been going through. And then on the flip side of it, you could have a student that's been training maybe 45 days, maybe 2 months, and he's got his checklist all checked off. The instructor has shown him every single thing. It's signed off on him. The student has initialed every single thing, believing he's ready to go. He's got a few pre-test scores on there. They're all in the upper 90s. This guy's a rock star. This guy's doing exactly what needs to be done. So you're going to keep motivating and keep pushing him. He's somebody that you want to try to help get through the Q system as fast as possible, but still maintaining a high level of skill talent. So I use these checklists to make sure the student understands that there's a time frame between tests. I use these checklists to make sure that the instructors are paying attention to each individual student, and there's no time going by without them learning on a regular basis. I'm also using to make sure that when we do physically test and we sit down and test, that no student fails. Because if he has all of the stuff checked off by an instructor, he's signed off it as a student, believing he has the ability to do the technique, and the pre-test scores are all 95s or above, or close to a 95 or above, there's really no reason that student should fail unless he kind of gets stage fright or he makes a mistake during the test. That was just during the test. We know the student can do the information correctly. During the test, he made a mistake. It happens. And he may do something drastic enough to where he would fail that test by what he did during that test. And that's okay. That's a learning movement. That's him getting his confidence up. That's learning how to be able to practice and turn it into results when there's a little bit of stress and pressure underneath them. Because when you get in a real life situation, you get in a real life fight, there's going to be some stress and there's going to be some pressure. And you don't want to be able to do this material for the very first time with that kind of stress and pressure. So testing is another way that year after year, after you're testing, it starts to build a little confidence in you performing in front of other people. It also teaches you how to learn. It gives the instructor a way to keep the student moving forward, and it gives the head instructor a way to make sure that his instructors are not letting any students slip through the cracks. So these checklists are critical. During the testing period, the way we score things is if the student makes a minor mistake, I'm going to deduct 1 point. So his perfect score of a 99 just went to a 98. If he makes a couple other mistakes, I'm going to take a point for every single thing that he's making minor mistakes on, especially if it's something that I've corrected him, something I need him to do that's going to make sure that this technique works in real life, and or he's doing something that honors the scroll that material comes from. So at the end of, and each individual, so let's say there's 10 things in this test. Each is going to get a score. If he's getting a 95, a 93, a 94, a 92, a 97, a 98, he gets a 91, he gets a 99. At the end of those 10 things, you add all those scores up. That's going to give you a total of all of those points. Then you can divide that by how many things he was actually tested on, which was 10. So you take the total score, divide it by 10, that gives him his real score. If he had some things he did really, really well, like he memorized something, you ask him a question like, where did that material come from in the scrolls? Can you show me that on your left-hand side? What does the meaning of that technique mean? And he can come right back with you right away. He may be able to earn some extra points. So let's say that his average score at the very end was a 94, but he had a lot of good memorization. He had a couple techniques that were really, really good. His flow was good. His speed was good. His training of the uke was good. Everything. It was just a very, very well executed aspect of his test. He may earn himself a bonus point to take that score from a 94, which potentially could be a fail, to a pass. And it goes vice versa. If I was to ask a student where this material come from, he doesn't know. What's the name and the meaning? He doesn't know. But he's doing everything perfect. He just does not earn any extra points. I'm not going to take away from him. But over time goes by, he's going to realize that these questions are asked every single test. Maybe if he wants to get some extra points, he needs to put in a little extra work, right? So during the test, the instructor should always have a few panels there, even if it's a few people just a few ranks ahead of him. So he's doing this material in front of a few people. You always want to have the instructor that teaches him on a daily basis, part of the panel, and then you want to have a few other people. During the test, if the student was to make something, a minor mistake that required a deduction from the points, the grading panel needs to write that down. They need to write down why he made a mistake, what he did that counted for that deduction. And at the end of the test, when you pull the student to the side and you say, hey man, you did a great job. Here's some things I'd like to go over. On this aspect, I deducted points and here's why. And you have an opportunity to turn that into a kind of a personal class, a little private class right there on the spot, and give him some help pointers on what he needs to do. If the student was If he failed the test for whatever reason, you need to be able to explain to the student why. Here's why I took these deductions off. And then sometimes you'll have the student say, well, Sensei, this is how I was taught. Then that's why you need the instructor who teaches them on a daily basis right there and say, hey, is this how you're teaching it? And if the instructor says, yes, Sensei, this is how I'm teaching it, but you took deductions from it, that gives the head instructor, or somebody like myself, an opportunity to work with the other black belts to say, hey, somehow along the line, you're missing some things, and here's what I need to see moving forward. So you don't penalize a student, you let the student slide, you train the instructor so the instructor moving forward doesn't make those same mistakes, and you raise the quality control of the whole school. And without a checklist, without a test, without having the teacher there, without having the student there, none of these things happen. So it's very important for testing to take place on some type of regular schedule. And I recommend writing it out for the whole year. If you're testing every 90 days, that's every 3 months, that's 4 tests a year. You find out last year when your last test was, you go 90 days from that, that's your first test. And then like clockwork, it's 90 days until you get to the end of the year and you put that out. So the students know when testing is. You're not going to have every student test at every single testing. There is going to take some time between tests. Not everybody's going to be able to do that 90-day schedule, but you want to make sure they're taking a few tests per year. You see, during that testing process, a lot of times that student, especially a new student, a white belt, yellow belt, orange belt, in some cases when I had big schools, man, I never even knew the guy's name yet. He's only been coming a few months. I'm working with the upper level brown belts and black belts instructors. I may come down and teach a few lower level classes. People kind of come and go. I don't really know their name. A lot of times I don't know a student's name until he's probably a green belt or brown belt, but this may be the first time that I've seen this dude in the class. So it's important for me to get to know these students and see them train so I can monitor how they're interpreting the material that the instructors who I'm working with are putting down. And I'm making sure that my instructors are putting that information down for the students to be able to retain it and learn it. So it's a great opportunity for me to meet lower level students. And it's very important for them too, because here's a black belt or a head instructor, a guy he's seen bouncing around the dojo, but they've never had a conversation. But on this day, he's sitting in a chair at a table and he's watching me. He's watching me. This is a big thing for him. And you can't take that for granted. So when he's performing for you, everybody's testing. The student's testing. The instructor that taught that dude is testing. I'm testing because I'm seeing how my instructors are teaching the students. Everybody's testing at that moment. You know what I mean? So when you're testing and you're writing things down, and at the very end, you give him a little private class, you give him some motivation, you give him some high fives, you're telling him what he did good, telling him what he needs to improve on, you're giving him score, hopefully he passed, he's motivated, you hand him his next belt, and you're on to the next section. If you do this on a regular basis, it's also going to build your retention. Students are going to want to come to class because they need to have these class times in to get these repetitions, to get things signed off, to get the skills down so they're eligible to test. So if you've got a guy that's not coming to class on a regular basis and he's not taking things seriously, you can use testing as bait to say, look, brother, I need you here on a more regular basis. It's been a few months since you've had anything checked off on your checklist. That needs to change. You've got a lot of talent. You can do this, but you've got to be here in the school. You've got to start making it a priority. A little pep talk like that can make that student come on a regular basis. If a student's coming all the time, never misses classes, but a lot of things are not getting checked off, a lot of times that could be the instructor's situation. He's not paying attention to that student, or that student is not standing out, or that student is not taking the initiative to come up to the instructor and say, hey, Sensei, can you take a look at this? I've been working on it at home. I'd like to get it checked off on my curriculum. So there's ways that the student can use the checklist to keep the instructors in check. There's ways that the checklist can help the instructor keep the students' attendance and participation in classes to the highest level. If you don't use these checklists, I have seen people come and train, and they're learning all over this place, but nothing's focused. And months can go by, years can go by. Guys are 6, 7, 8 years training. They're a green belt, and they don't even know what they know. The instructor doesn't even know what they know. So without some type of checks and balances, you're just wasting your time for the students. You're just spinning your wheels. You have no way to control what's going on. And if you have somebody like myself who's visiting your school, if I walk up to a student and say, what are you working on? He can show me his checklist, and I'll know in 3 seconds exactly what he's been taught, who taught it, if the student feels he's accomplished with it, and what he needs to learn. And I can pick up his training on the spot, even if I've never, ever met this student. That's how valuable these checklists are. All right. So I hope this gives you a little insight about testing. I think testing is very important. I think I have black belts now that it's been years since they tested. They've lost touch with that teacher-student relationship, that bond that comes from working on materials, talking to your instructor, having that instructor help you, working on that material and asking questions and getting help, getting insight, getting what they call kuden. When you went through this material, where did you learn it from? Who did you get it from? Can you show me a variation from this technique? I'm not quite getting it. In the scrolls, I see it's in this chapter, the scroll, it's from the Chuden Menkyo, the scroll. And I forgot exactly what the Chuden Menkyo patterns and the meaning and the theme is for that scroll. And it gives you a chance. So even if you're a black belt, and you're not using your next belt. Everyone has their next belt, and you should know what it takes to get that next rank. And you should write out a list of what it takes, and then use some type of checks and balance. Here's the date I learned it. Here's the instructor who taught it from me. I'm going to practice with it. I think I've got it down. I'm going to put my initial to it. I'm going to get the attention of another instructor. I'm going to have them watch me. I'm going to get a pretest score, and I'm going to see where I'm at. And if I'm doing great, I'm going to move on. If I'm not doing great, I'm going to learn out why, and I'm going to keep working on it. So no matter if you're a white belt or a 5th degree black belt, these checklists serve the same purpose. I should be able to walk into a black belt class, have all the black belts bring me their checklist. I can look right at it and say, okay, you're working on the second scroll of Kotaru. You've learned 50% of the material. Here's the next technique in your test. Let's work on it. Oh, I've seen that before. Well, why didn't an instructor sign off on it? Oh, I don't know. We were busy that day. That's a red flag. Now I'm busting the ass of whoever his teacher is. And I'm making sure that these checklists are followed, no matter if you're a white belt or a 5th degree black belt. Testing is important. It builds a relationship between the student and the teacher. It builds a relationship between the teachers and their instructors. It makes the students stay on the same bond. They're going through the same levels. Every student is doing the same material at yellow belt, the same material at orange belt, the same material at green belt. It builds a bond, and it's very important. So if you're not testing on a regular basis, you need to have a good look in the mirror. If your instructors are not giving you some type of direction on what you need for your next test, just ask them, hey, sensei, what do I need for my next test? Is it just a simple skill level? Has my skill level increased to a certain level, and that's what rates? Is there a written curriculum, and have you broken it down and made a list of the things in your test? And then have you set a date where you got them taught to you? So you got an understanding of this date, this test was taught to me 2 months ago, and I've only had 2 months working with it. Or it was taught to me 6 months ago or 1 month ago. You put a date of when you first learned every single aspect of the material. And then you've got to put your initial down on it. And then you need to have somebody check it out. Hey, am I doing this? Am I progressing forward? Am I doing it correctly? Where am I? Can you help me? Is there anything I need to fix? And then once you've got all that material down, you should have an understanding. Hey, I think I'm ready to test. And it's kind of bad technique to go up to your teacher and say, hey, I'm ready to test. But if you got something to prove to him that, hey, sensei, there's 15 things in my next test. I originally learned them 4 months ago. These are the dates that I learned them. This is how much effort and time I've put into them. I feel they're ready. I'd like for somebody to do a quick evaluation so I make sure I'm moving on the right track. And if I am, I'd like to know when the next testing is. This is you helping the instructor stay motivated. And if I'm an instructor and a student comes up to me and goes, hey, I've been working on this material. Here's the dates that I learned everything. Here's the effort that I put on. Here's how I'm doing everything. Here's my progression. Can I show you some things today? And the instructor says, yeah, everything looks good. I would say, great. Well, what do I need to do to move forward to my next test? And I would put my instructor on the spot to see what he says. So I hope instructors out there can understand how important it is to students that they're paid attention to, that they're rewarded for the amount of hours that they're putting in, because they're really, really trying hard. And I think sometimes if an instructor is not seeing a student progress fast enough, they may think that that student is just not training hard enough. And sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. Sometimes a little special effort, it has to be put to that student. You have to find another way to make them understand. Muscle memory is a great way. So make them understand, hey, how many times you've done it? Oh, since I've done it at least 15, 16 times. Oh, that's great. You've only got about 980 to go. You need to do it 100 times a day for 10 days and have at least 1,000 movements under your belt before you even come and ask me a question. Because if you do it 1,000 times, whatever little question you have, it's going to answer itself. So let's get working on it. You know what I mean? You're going in the right direction. You're doing everything correctly, but you just don't have it down right. That takes me to my last thing. A lot of students say, Sensei, I'm just not ready to test. I don't feel comfortable with it. Well, at yellow belt, at orange belt, at brown belt, at 5th degree black belt, our job is not to perfect this movement. A test is saying, hey, I was shown it. I was able to reproduce the movements. I was able to learn and understand it. And I was able to make it work to the best of my ability. So if it happens in real life, I can apply these skills. If you can do all of that, you've learned it. Do you have to master it? Do you have to have it down perfect? No. You've got the rest of your life to do that. Each test, each section is not, you're not mastering that. You're not becoming perfect at it. You're becoming proficient at it. You understand it. You can do it. You still need more time to make it work in real life. You've got to drill it and drill it and drill it and pressure test, and you've got your whole life to do that. But during these tests, your job is not to learn something on a Monday and then train with it until you perfect it. That's your lifetime. It's going to take you, you want to be able to reproduce it to a proficient level to make it work. If you can do that, it's time to move on. The more you learn, the more you can add to your toolbox, the more skills you have. That's what's going to make you successful in a fight. Not the material just in that one belt. It's the collective of all the belts, all the knowledge, all the time, all the training. Put that all together. That's what's going to make your self-defense strong. Each test gives you skill sets to fight in different scenarios, different weapons, different mentalities. Some tests have stuff that's on the ground. Some have kicks, some have punch, some have chokes, escapes from chokes, escapes from ground techniques. Each belt level, each stage gives you more knowledge. Your job is to learn that knowledge, get proficient at it, be able to do it at a certain level, and move forward. That's it. Learn it, practice it, be able to do it, be able to understand it, and move forward. And keep doing that over and over until you're collecting and obtaining more and more skills. The more skills you have, you apply all those skills to your pressure test. That's what it's all about. It's not all about, well, Sensei, I'm not ready. I don't feel comfortable with it. Well, how many times you've done it? Well, I've done it 100 times. Okay, you're right. You're not ready. Let's do it. Let's do it hundreds and hundreds of more times. Well, how long have you learned this? Well, Sensei, I learned it a year ago and I've been working with it. Man, if you don't have it together now, you may never get this aspect of this technique. That's why you got to learn something else that you're going to be able to do. You're going to learn more. There's going to be something that you're going to like, something that you can be able to do. You're not going to be able to do everything in every part of this aspect of this curriculum. Some stuff you're going to have a little bit of a favoritism to. Some stuff's going to match your personality. It's going to match your body. It's going to match your injury. It's going to match your talent. The more you learn, the more ability you're going to have to be able to defend yourself. But if you're stuck at yellow belt for 2 years, stuck at orange belt for a year and a half, and you're going over it, and you're thinking, I'm not ready, I'm not ready, I'm not ready. Well, what do you do? What are you doing to make yourself ready? Do you understand it? Can you do it right side, left side? Can you do it against an opponent that's giving you a little bit of resistance? He's kind of fighting against you. Can you make it work? Are you learning what you need to be able to do to make it work with resistance? And again, you may not be able to make that technique work. That's why you need to learn more. That's why you need to learn other techniques. You're going to always try to make that technique work. You're going to go back to it and go back to it and go back to it and get more advice. But it could be a year down the road, 2 years down the road that you learn something else that puts that puzzle piece together. How do you get that extra puzzle piece? You got to get to the next test. It's like a video game. You got to get to the next level, to the next stage. You've got to earn the right to see more material. And that more material is giving you opportunity to do more training. More training is going to bring to life everything that you do. How do you get the more knowledge? You got to pass a test to get to the next test. You got to pass that test to get to the next test. How do you do that? You got to have some type of structure to make you understand what you need to know, when you've learned it, and how good you are at it. And then once you've passed that test, it unlocks a whole new thing. You've got a blank slate and you start all over. That teacher relationship begins. You're going to your teacher and you're working on new material. You're getting an opportunity to see the skills of your instructor, to see his skills of what he does, because he knows all this material. You may not have ever seen it, never even knew it existed. But during that test, you get an opportunity to see that instructor show why he's got 20 years of training, 15 years of training, 10 years of training, or why he's better and earned the place he has above you to be your instructor. So there's a ton of reasons why we should test. A ton of reasons why instructors need to keep testing. A ton of reasons why instructors need to get better at the testing, the process of testing, being able to test students, Take good notes on that student to be able to transfer the information from that test to the student to help that student grow and help that student move forward. Testing should be a time of celebration. Testing should be a time of performances. Check me out, Sensei. I've been training hard. Look what I've done with the knowledge you taught me. Look what I've done with it. I don't move like you, but I move like this, and I'm happy with it, and I can make it work. And instructors should not be making cookie cutters of themselves. Give those students a little bit of flexibility to train. Keep them in check. Make sure it's going to work in real life. Make sure it matches the patterns of the scrolls and it fits the parameters of your training, of your program. But give those students some flexibility. They don't have to be a cookie cutter of you, a cookie cutter of somebody in Japan. They have to be able to do that material to the best of their ability. And you've got to have the skill set to say, you know what, the way he's doing it with that intensity and his confidence, it's going to work. It's not how I would do it. It's not how people in Japan do it. But that student can make that technique work. I recognize it when I see it. If somebody was to come in from another school and watch that student do it, they would recognize it by name, know what he was doing, and can see that it would work. If that's the case, you let this dude keep moving forward. Don't slow him down. Don't make him become you. Let him be himself. You know what I mean? Again, I hope this helps with your training. I hope this helps with testing. All the students out there that train with me, I want you to make sure you got your notebook open. You got your checklooks there. You're looking over, what do I know? What do I not know? What do I need to work on? Who do I need to call? What training do I need to make next? And am I on my timeline? Am I on that 90-day pace? For black belts, it's once a year, minimum. You should be having somebody evaluate you once a year, whether you're ready to test for that material or not, but every single year you need to sit down with an instructor and keep moving forward. Q students every 90 days. If you need copies of your checklist and you don't have one, send me an email. Tell me what your next test is. I'll put something together for it and I'll send it to you. My name is Rob Stevens. I'm with the United States Ninpo Academy, and I hope this video helps you. Peace.
You can't stop it. You can't stop it. You can't stop it. You can't stop it.